At this time, I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Middlesex County Board of Chosen Freeholders to order. Please stand for a moment of silence. Please pray and remember our servicemen and women who are serving overseas. At this time, I call upon the Director of Personnel, Dennis Rami, to lead us in the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, would you please read the notice?
Notice of this meeting pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-10, has been complied with and shall be entered into the minutes of this meeting.
Roll call.
Freeholder Barrett.
Here.
Freeholder Polos. Freeholder Rios.
Here.
Freeholder Scott.
Here.
Freeholder Valenti.
Here.
Freeholder Director Delina. And Freeholder Deputy Director Rafano.
Here. At this time, I'd like to deviate from the regular order of business to consider a resolution making an appointment to the Middlesex County Board of Social Services. Mr. Kelso?
Yes, Deputy Director, Resolution 09-581, appointment of Thomas Ty of Sayreville as a member of the Middlesex County Board of Social Services for a term terminating December 31st, 2013.
I need a motion to add this resolution.
Second.
Motion by Freeholder Valente, second by Freeholder Rios. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Freeholder Barrett.
Yes.
Freeholder Rios.
Yes.
Freeholder Scott.
Yes.
Freeholder Valenti.
Yes.
Freeholder Deputy Director Rafano.
Yes. I will now open to the public this resolution. That's Resolution 09-581 only. Any comment from the public on first call, second, third? I need a motion to close.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Freeholder Rios, seconded by Freeholder Valente. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is there a motion to adopt Resolution 09-581?
Motion. Oh, second.
Motion by Freeholder Rios, seconded by Freeholder Valente. Roll call, please.
Freeholder Barrett.
Yes.
Freeholder Rios.
Yes.
Freeholder Scott.
Yes.
Freeholder Valenti.
Yes.
Freeholder Deputy Director Rafano.
Yes. Clerk, would you please administer the oath of office to Tom Ty?
Congratulations. Raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I
I,
state your name.
Thomas Ty,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
that I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same
and allegiance to the same
and to the governments established
and to the government established
in the United States
in the United States
and in this state
and in this state,
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
and that I will faithfully,
and that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly perform
and justly perform
all the duties
all the duties
of the office
of
member Middlesex County Board of Social Services
a member of the Middlesex County Board of Social Services
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my abilities.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's only an hour a week, right?
Welcome aboard, Tom.
Thank you.
At this time, we'll have reports of freeholders. Freeholder Carol Barrett.
Yes. Yesterday, I went to the Central Jersey Transportation Forum. Some of the key discussions at that meeting were the Route 1 corridor bus rapid transit and the New Brunswick bus rapid transit. Representatives reported that for Route 1 corridor in the greater New Brunswick area are moving forward. Also, business route proposals included routes to serve core business districts between Burlington, Princeton, Bucks County, Pennsylvania, and Plainsboro, Hamilton to Princeton. Also, the New Jersey Department of Transportation on capital programming, Tom Wassel, said that the stimulus money that came was $1 billion towards these projects, and 50% of this money will be used within a 120-day period. Also, there was a presentation from the New Jersey DOT representatives, and their consultants reported on a strategy study which has been going on. They completed their first round of sub-area workshops, and which will identify long-range transportation improvements, and this input will be used to formulate future transportation work for modeling analysis, which will lead to a refined regional land use vision. This was a very exciting and very interesting and informative forum. I look forward to attending these again, and I'll report back. Last Saturday, the Urban County Housing and Community Development Committee met to determine how to allocate approximately $1.9 million in community development block grant money, which came from the federal government to the urban county municipalities in 2009. There were 2 representatives at this meeting from each 19 municipalities, as well as 2 from the county, making 40 members in all. This committee has been going on since, for the last 35 years, and their job is to determine how to best spend the funds. This was a very spirited meeting, and there were a lot of ideas, and I was very amazed at, even though there were so many people in the room and wanted to spend the money in different ways, how they reached an agreement in an orderly fashion, and it's a tribute to all of the members from the different towns and to John Sully and his group. It was interesting to watch, and it was a secret ballot, and by vote, the towns voted on how to allocate the money. So I want to give thanks to everyone who attended and all the municipalities and to John Sully and his group for chairing it. Thank you.
Thank you, Freeholder.
My report.
Freeholder Rios?
Yes, on the public health portion of my report, the Health Department, in cooperation with Middlesex County Dental Society, will be sponsoring a free oral cancer screening clinic on Thursday, April 23rd, from 1:30 to 4:30 p.m. at the Robert Wood Johnson University Dental Clinic. Flu vaccinations provided for preschool children. State guidelines have required children in preschool to receive 1 dose of flu vaccine during the flu season. And this has been a resource for children for 6 months to 59 months who have not found the vaccine through their private health care provider beginning in January of this year. As far as there was an incident in the Caseby section of Woodbridge where there were complaints of odors emanating from a Converted Organics of Woodbridge LLC, and there were numerous violations issued to the company. And today, there's a total of $56,000 in fines issued to them. And our our county environmental division will continue to monitor that. And as of today, we found out that they voluntarily closed their operation until they remedy the situation there. As far as our education portion of my report, the County Vocational School, who continues to do great things, they got involved in a McFoods drive, and that's under the auspices and leadership, and I want to thank also Freeholder Blanquita Valente for spearheading that. And they did a TV news brief on CBS News, and we will be able to see that right now. It's a short thing that was on TV that they were recognized for working and getting some.
A big accomplishment for a small New Jersey high school trying to help the hungry. The Middlesex County Academy in Edison has only 150 students, but they collected an amazing 10,000 pounds of food over the last few weeks. It's all going to help those in need. Even the principal is amazed.
they realize that there are a lot of people, you know, whether it's out of work or the economic times, that need the help.
It's really a pretty incredible feeling knowing that, you know, we can make this much of an impact.
This year's haul is nearly double what the school collected last year. All of the food will be picked up tomorrow for distribution.
I want to say kudos to the children at the Academy. They really did
It's really great.
a great job, and this is their 4th year in a row that they've been #1 in the county. So kudos to them, and I'd like to thank Freeholder Valenti for her hard work in this. As far as also in the vocational school, Berkeley College has recognized 2 seniors and 2 juniors from the School of Technology at the Piscataway campus for their diligence and accomplishments in the field of business. The Academy for Science, Math, and Engineering Technology reported that after the first 3 tests in the New Jersey Science League competition, the biology team is in 1st place, chemistry is in 2nd, and the physics team is tied and in 2nd place in the state. As far as the college goes, kudos to the outstanding students and projects of Democracy House, which was named the 2008 President's Higher Education Community Service Honor Roll with distinction. And congrats to the wrestling team for the college. They placed 3rd in the national tournament in their category, and continued progress in health and education. Thank you, Deputy Director Raffena.
Thank you, Freeholder. Freeholder Millie Scott.
Yes, I do. Thank you. On tonight's agenda, there is a resolution retaining James Lee DeWitt Associates for purpose of enhancing the county's overall emergency preparedness. One of the key areas identified if the recent catastrophe events was a need for government to be able to continue operations. Middlesex County currently has continuation of operations, plan that was developed in 2006. The contract with James Lee DeWitt Associates would allow for the review, update, and streamline of the county's co-op plan. The contract also provides for funding for Witt Associates to work with all municipalities in the county to develop a plan for every municipality. Middlesex County is the first county in the state of New Jersey to provide this service to its municipalities. The funds for this project are from the Federal Homeland Security, funding received by Middlesex County in federal fiscal year 2008. The Middlesex County Office of Emergency Management will lead this effort along with key representatives of our county administration as well as our municipal OEMs and municipal administrations. When it comes to preparedness, we have been proactive in Middlesex County to take steps to protect our residents and to ensure the vital services are available before, during, and after emergency situations. Planning is a key to responsive initiative. And I've said this before, that I think Middlesex County has been proactive in a lot of different areas. And since 9/11, we have continued to be proactive. And this plan will make sure that we're updated and we're on continued preparation for the coming years ahead. And I want to say to all Middlesex County residents that you can feel safe be living or visiting in Middlesex County. Thank you.
Thank you, Freeholder. Freeholder Blanquita Valente.
Thank you, Freeholder, Deputy Freeholder Rafano, and good evening to my fellow freeholders. I want to thank Freeholder Rios for giving me some credit. The McFoods has been spearheading a drive every year with the schools. We have over 160 schools that participate. But the significant thing about the Middlesex County Vocational Technical High School, which is located in Middlesex County College, that if all the schools that are bringing food, they have the smallest enrollment. And yet every year they have a contest among themselves that they're going to do better than the year before. So kudos to the students there. This evening I gave a welcoming address at Rutgers Student Center. And this was sponsored by NCADD, the National Coalition Against Alcoholism and Drug Dependence of Middlesex County. It was their legislative forum, and it was televised. It was being televised by Channel 12, which is the public cable. And it was at a good place where you have a lot of young students and where we know that in many colleges and universities, this binge drinking is getting to be just out of proportion. There were quite a few students there, and there was going to be a panel discussion, and it was whether to lower the drinking age back to 18, and this is called now the Amethyst Initiative. Nationwide, there's about 120 college presidents that are advocating this, versus no, we're going to leave the drinking age at 21. I had to leave because I had other obligations besides the board of vocational board. We had our board of school estimate and then this meeting, and there were two sides for each of these points, and a lot of students who were going to express themselves. But I felt it was a very, very fine event. And the Master of Ceremonies was Walt Kane, the investigative reporter of the Capitol Bureau, Chief News, Channel 12, New Jersey. And the panelists, one of them is our own legislator, Upendra J. Chivukula, Robert J. Pandina, Barrett Seaman, the author of Campus Life in an Age of Disconnection and Excess. And I'm sorry I missed the event, the rest of the event, but I have the results here. April, as we all know, is Alcohol Awareness Month. And at the last meeting, we did give a proclamation to Steve Liga, who heads the NCADD in Middlesex County. And of course, he was a sponsor of this event tonight. I also want to call attention to the Middlesex County Commission on Child Abuse and Missing Children. Next week on April the 7th, we are holding a prescription drug forum, and it's entitled Medicine Cabinet, the New Drug Dealers. A lot of kids are getting their drugs from what's in the medicine cabinet that their parents may not be aware. And this forum will take place in the evening, and is open to parents and teachers and counselors, etc. And we want to bring public awareness and what are the legal responsibilities, the medical and physical social consequences, and a public agency response. Quite a few people have signed up, and I hope to see them there next week. Also, on the 14th of this month, the veterans, our Middlesex County veterans, will have a forum, and this deals with pension and other events that are coming, and we have invited spouses as well as veterans. And our Council of Veterans Advisory members are being involved in this. And this has to do with aid and attendance pension program for veterans and their spouses. And it will be on the 14th at 10 a.m. at the Middlesex County Fire Academy in Sayreville. This is an improvement of the pension program. And for those who are eligible, it provides additional funds for an attendant to assist veterans and surviving spouses who require assistance with eating, bathing, dressing, and other personal needs. And finally, on the 23rd of April, the month of the young child is being commemorated tonight. There will be a proclamation in a little while. But we're also having a forum, Girls and the Law, Risk and Prevention. And our Department of Middlesex County Human Services, as well as the Middlesex County Bar Association, the Women's Lawyers Section, and Coordinated Family Care are co-sponsoring a forum on Girls and the Law. And it will be from 9 to 3 p.m. at the Middlesex County Fire Academy in Sayreville. This is open to judges, attorneys, probation, parole officers, social workers, educators, school personnel ad infinitum. And there will be a very fine keynote speaker. from the Minnesota Advisory Task Force. Her name is Paula Schaefer. I believe this is the end of my report. Oh, I just wanted to mention very briefly that April is National Autism Awareness Month, and today in particular is the one day that is designated. The spectrum of autism disorders are lifelong developmental disabilities affecting 1 in 150 children nationally, and in New Jersey, unfortunately, 1 in 94 are affected. So I think that there's been a lot of information on autism, yet there is not a cure. And I certainly would like to raise awareness of and how that we really have an obligation to help families that are affected by autism and making them feel safe and part of this community. Thank you, Mr. Rafano.
Thank you, Freeholder. As Freeholder Liaison to Economic Development, I'd like to report on several new businesses that have expanded or moved to the county. On March 20th, Marlabs opened its new 90,000 square foot world headquarters in Piscataway. I know Freeholder Scott attended. And they employ 800 people in the United States, 250 right here in New Jersey, so that's certainly good news. Also, Freeholder Scott and Freeholder Valente attended the Chromocell's new laboratory and office facility opening in North Brunswick. That company has grown from 3 employees in 2003 to 80 employees now, so that certainly is good news. Also, everyone is aware of the fact that there's a lot of empty retail stores. I'm pleased to report that the empty Circuit City location on Route 18 in East Brunswick is now going to be filled by P.C. Richards, and they're currently looking to hire employees for the store, so certainly is good news from Middlesex County. 2 upcoming events, one of which is sponsored by our Middlesex County Improvement Authority I'm going to speak at, and that is April 16th, seminar open to our 25 municipalities. The mayors have been invited, council members, business administrators, chief financial officers, and clerks. And we're going to discuss at that meeting the 2009 capital equipment and lease program. But we're doing something different this year through the Improvement Authority. They're going to be offering a way to help finance solar energy projects in our municipalities through Middlesex County. So I certainly encourage all of the mayors and council people to attend that seminar. And also on May 6th, I will be appearing in front of the Middlesex County Alliance for Action. This is an alliance group that promotes construction and transportation projects in New Jersey. That's all I have. Okay, let's move on to proclamations, commemorative resolutions, and correspondence. Madam Clerk?
We have one proclamation this evening recognizing April 19th through 25th as the Week of the Young Child in Middlesex County. And the commemorative resolutions, first is recognizing Reverend Kevin Jones, pastor of Sharon Baptist Church, New Brunswick, on the occasion of his 5th anniversary with that church. Next is recognizing Eric Siegel of Joyce Kilmer School and Jennifer Pinella of the Parkview School, as they have been named the 2008-2009 Teachers of the Year in Milltown. Next is recognizing the Home Depot Corporation for their generous assistance to the Edison Job Corps and donations to nonprofit organizations in the community. And last is recognizing Angelo Galino Jr. of Carteret, as he is installed as the exalted ruler of the Carteret Elks Lodge 2235.
I need a motion to adopt these resolutions.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Freeholder Barrett, second by Freeholder Valente. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Freeholder Barrett,
Yes.
Freeholder Rios,
Yes.
Freeholder Scott,
Yes.
Freeholder Valenti,
Yes.
Freeholder Deputy Director Rafano.
Yes. At this time, I'd like to recognize Freeholder Valente to present the proclamation. I'll do it at the end.
This proclamation is going to be presented to Marge Bailey. Marge happens to be representing the New Brunswick School Board District, and she's a former chairman of the Human Services Advisory Council in Middlesex County, and she's presently a member, and I want to welcome her. the New Brunswick Public Schools is having this event this week in collaboration with our early childhood centers in the city, as well as a whole other group of people. Preschools and community agencies and organizations are partnering to develop activities, events, and programs for this week. The week is going to be later in April. And some of the partners are Angie Emeth Community Development Corporation, the Association for Children of New Jersey, Catholic Charities at Unity Square, Sacred Heart in New Brunswick, Children's Specialized Hospital, Division of Youth and Family Services, Middlesex County College, New Brunswick Public Library, and the list goes on, including Puerto Rican Action Board, Ronald McDonald House, St. Peter's Hospital, and the Central New Jersey Maternal and Child Health Consortium, and the George Street Co-op Health Foods. We are very pleased to make this presentation because in April, on April 20th, it's the Week of the Young Child. And the celebration is being sponsored by the National Association of Education of Young Children. Whereas with nearly 100,000 members and a network of over 300 local, state, and regional affiliates, the National Association for the Education of Young Children is the world's largest early childhood education association. And whereas and I'm going to use the initials, NAEYC's Week of the Young Child seeks to improve early learning opportunities that can provide a foundation of learning for children by focusing public attention on the needs of young children and their families, and by recognizing the early childhood services and programs that meet such needs. Whereas teachers and others who make a difference in the lives of young children deserve thanks and recognition. Now therefore, I, Stephen J. Delina, who's our director of the Board of Chosen Freeholders of Middlesex County, do hereby proclaim April 19th through April 25th as the Week of the Young Child in Middlesex County, and call upon the citizens of Middlesex County to support efforts that will promote literacy and early learning for all young children. And Marge, I'm presenting this to you on behalf of the Board of Freeholders. Congratulations.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the Middlesex County Board of Chosen Freeholders for supporting this effort for the Week of the Young Child. The young child, of course, is the foundation of our society, as it is in any society. I want to thank you very much for giving your support to this event. And also, we're having celebration throughout the month, actually. Even though it's the Week of the Young Child, our preschool centers will have various activities throughout the entire month. If you'd like to know more about that particular event, you can always give me a call at 732-745-5300, extension 4038. Once again, thank you so very much for your support.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, correspondence, please.
We have a letter in the matter of the petition of Middlesex Water Company for approval of a purchased water adjustment clause, stating that public hearing has been scheduled for April 29th at 7 p.m. at the Woodbridge Community Center, located at 600 Main Street in Woodbridge. A notice from AT&T Business Service distributing a copy of the New Jersey Customer Bill of Rights. A resolution from the Hunterdon County Board of Freeholders indicating support for proposed legislation for reimbursement to counties for state-sentenced inmates before the 16th day of housing. A resolution from the Woodbridge Township Council indicating temporary road closures in connection with the Woodbridge Downtown Merchants Association and Downtown Cruise Night on Main Street on June 17th, July 15th, and August 19th. Monthly report of investments from the county treasurer for the month of March. A copy of the 2008 annual report for the Middlesex County Department on Aging and the 2008 resource directory for older adults. Minutes of the Board of Trustees of Middlesex County College meeting held February 25th. A copy of the annual report for 2007-2008 from Middlesex County College. A letter from Antonio Cruz of Perth Amboy. asking me to thank the board for his reappointment to the Middlesex County Utilities Authority. Mr. Cruz states it would be his honor to continue serving on this prestigious board. At this time, please thank all the freeholders for supporting my appointment. A letter from J. Kim, Ph.D. of Lewisburg, Pennsylvania, who is a professor of civil engineering at Bucknell University, which indicates ideas for the development and use of a unique method for increasing the load-carrying capacity of aged steel truss bridges economically and expeditiously with no extended interruptions of bridge traffic. This will be referred to the county engineer. A letter from Mike Glickson of Monroe Township expressing his concern of the geese droppings in Thompson Park. This letter was referred to Ralph Abadier, Director of Parks and Recreation, for a response. That's all for the regular correspondence, but there's open
other
space.
Okay. Okay, on the regular correspondence, I need a motion to accept.
Second.
Motion by Freeholder Valente, seconded by Freeholder Rios. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now the additional correspondence.
Just one letter from East Brunswick Mayor David Stahl, asking the board to consider the purchase of 2 contiguous lots along Cranberry Road, 701 Cranberry Road to be specific. The property owner has expressed a desire to sell the property but retain a life estate so the house can continue to be used and the farming of the orchards continued. This property is adjacent to Heavenly Farms Recreation Center and near the Middlesex County Fairgrounds Association.
Okay, I need a motion to refer that to Ralph Albanier in the Open Space Committee.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion by Freeholder Rios, seconded by Freeholder Barrett. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, I need a motion to accept the minutes of the March 5th and March 19th Freeholder meetings.
Second.
Motion by Freeholder Valente, seconded by Freeholder Barrett. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Are there any resolutions to be amended?
There are none.
Are there any resolutions to be added?
We have one resolution proposed for addition, and this is the one change in personnel as per the list dated March 30th, 2009. And a motion would be in order to add that to the consent agenda.
I need a motion.
Second.
Motion by Freeholder Rios, seconded by Freeholder Barrett. All those in favor? Or roll call?
Roll call.
Roll call.
Freeholder Barrett?
Yes.
Freeholder Rios?
Yes.
Freeholder Scott?
Yes.
Freeholder Valenti?
Yes.
Freeholder Deputy Director Rafano?
Yes. Are there any resolutions to be held?
Yes, Deputy Director. Resolution 09-526 on page 3 is to be held. That was voted to be held at Monday night's agenda meeting.
Any resolutions to be voided?
Yes, we have on page 6, Resolution 09-560 to be voided, and once again, this was previously voted to be voided at Monday evening's agenda meeting.
Okay. At this point in time, I'm going to open the meeting up to the public for discussion on the resolutions only, but I want to do something different with the board's indulgence. I'd like to open it up to the public initially for Resolution 09-571, and that deals with the New Brunswick Transfer Station. I know there are a lot of people here that want to talk about that, so let's start with that.
And Deputy Director, if I might, I will be recusing myself from participation in any discussion on this resolution, in that my firm has provided legal representation to the applicant in the past. And I would indicate that Deputy County Counsel Nikki Athanasopoulos is here this evening to advise the board or answer any questions that the board might have on this particular matter.
Okay. Yes, let me remind everybody, please, there's a 5-minute rule, and when you get up, state your name and address, please. And also, come on up, Carlo. This resolution, so you understand, is just to set a public hearing. There's no decision being made tonight about accepting the plan or not. We are required to set a public hearing, and that's all we're doing.
Good evening, freeholders. My name is Carlos Osho. I'm a councilman in North Brunswick Township, 14 16th Street, North Brunswick. I am here to speak and voice concerns about Resolution 09-571 on a variety of different issues, and I hope that the 5 minutes will do me justice. The location of the facilities on Jersey Avenue, the city of New Brunswick, it is directly adjacent to Frisch Park in North Brunswick and the McAuliffe Drive area of of our town. It is less than a mile away from one of our elementary schools. Frisch Lake Park is a renovated park. And the McAuliffe Drive area is really experienced a rebirth. It is a young community, has a lot of young children in there, my 2 young children included, and we as a community have a big concern about what this facility will do, what it will pose. Our first concern as a township is the traffic. The traffic impact report, which was done by Birdsall Engineering, seems to be missing a lot. All right. First of all, there is a failure to mention the park and ride on Jersey Avenue. Jersey Avenue train station services Newark and New York City. It experiences a great amount of AM peak hour traffic, a great amount of PM peak hour traffic. It is nowhere mentioned in there. The traffic counts were done on Tuesday, February the 17th, the day after President's Day, what is traditionally a lower commuter traffic week. It was done for one day. It was done at the corner of Jules Avenue and Jersey Avenue. Jules Avenue and Jersey Avenue is a T intersection in the vicinity almost across from where the proposed facility is to be constructed, and really has no bearing on anything. Truck traffic is going to be coming through North Brunswick via Route 1 and Jersey Avenue. It's going to intersect at Howell Lane and Jersey Avenue, which is a main intersection, which is a main east-west intersection, and is a main cause of traffic in the morning rush, in the afternoon rush, and quite frankly at any time without any sense. In order to do traffic counts on February 17th, in my opinion, seems to be an opportune time to get an advantageous traffic count in order to say that there would not be any traffic impact. A better idea of a true traffic count would be any time, during normal work week conditions, and February 17th and President's Day week is just not that time. This facility is anticipating up to 120 trucks inbound, and there's going to be, according to the proposal, rail transportation of all outbound trash. Now, the letter from Conrail, which I'd like to thank Mr. Richard Hills for giving me, as well as a lot of other information, he's been very helpful, and I appreciate that, says that the city and the applicant seeks assurances that the facility will be served by rail once it is fully operational. What does fully operational mean? You can open it and only be at half capacity for a number of years, and you can have all these trucks bringing the garbage outbound. On page 6, paragraph 5 of the traffic impact report, it says that assuming a worst case scenario in where rail transportation is not available, everything's going to be brought outbound by trucks. So now all of a sudden your 120 truck number goes up to nearly 400 trucks per day on a road and an infrastructure system that cannot handle what it is currently experiencing, let alone anywhere between 120 and 400 trucks. Okay, enough about traffic. The type of waste which is to be handled. In the initial application, we are talking about 75% construction debris and material and 25% municipal solid waste. To the common person, municipal solid waste is garbage. It creates odors. It creates can be an obscene odor and something that's not good for either children playing in the park, children at baseball practice or games, or neighborhood children. Additionally, construction debris, creates dust and particulates, a lot of times of which sources we just don't know. We don't want kids breathing in dust and particulates that could be possibly asbestos or any other kind of a contaminant that could be damaging to both adults and children. As I said, Frisch Park, oh, that's 5 minutes. Wow. All right. Just quickly, if I may, the goal of what I'm asking here is that, because I'm assuming I don't get another turn, right? Right. I'm asking you to please pull Resolution 09571 in order to give some further consideration to the testimony I'm giving, testimony that a couple other residents are going to give. Before we go to a public hearing, let's just try and get a better grip on what the traffic's going to be, a better grip on what the environmental impacts are going to be, and just a better idea of what the residents of North Brunswick are looking at, because how Jersey Avenue traffic affects a couple of our department heads here who live in the John Adams area. It's going to have a detrimental effect on a big portion of North Brunswick, and we look to your indulgence to pull this, remand it back to the SWAC for further investigation before the public hearing does happen. Thank you, Freeholders.
Anyone else? Again, just on Resolution 09571. Yes, come on up, sir.
Good evening. My name is Jomare Polanco. I am the Democratic Committeeman for District 12 in North Brunswick, which is the district that is badly impacted by this project.
Where do you live, sir? What's your address?
7 Weber Road, Weber, which is maybe 5 blocks from the landfill that New Brunswick is proposing to build. I am here representing maybe 500 families. The last 3 days, 4 days, I have been talking to all my people of my district, and everyone believes that this is the worst project that we have seen here in Middlesex County. I am a little emotional right now because if you go to our district, it's a very small community, small houses. We have one park, and believe it or not, that landfill will be just across the park. That's the only place where our children going to play baseball. And not only that, we always complain about truck traffic through our lane. And this project is bringing how many trucks a day? And every day. Whoever had in mind this project, does not know the area. It just does not fit right there. It's against every policy that our party, Democratic Party, trying to implement, from the stimulus package to the bottom line of open space. All that we have been talking for years, that we are proud to say we are Democrat, we fight for the right thing. This is exactly what this project is turning to the garbage. I know that I only have 5 minutes. I'm more than happy to meet with you or go to any of your meetings or meet one by one to each of the freeholders and explain why my people believe that this is against any policy that Democratic Party always try to implement. About the environmental problems, myself, I'm a chemical engineer. I can tell you, there is no way that your story or the story whoever did environmental is real. We really have to go further, deep, and do the right environmental studies. For one reason, this is across the recreation area that 500 families' children going to play and to develop their, I would say, sports skills. And now we want to contaminate the air for them to breathe unhealthy air while they're trying to get healthy. Come on, this is something that I cannot believe it. Please, what I try to say today here, very briefly, here 500 families that are right there across this landfill that you're trying to, that New Brunswick is trying to propose. We are not supposed, we should find a better place for this. This project does not fit there for many reasons, and I will be more than happy on April 22nd to bring everybody from my district, if that is the case, to let you know that this is not my opinion, it's the community opinion. Also, our houses right now are down because of the economy. What do you want us? We pay, my seller, I pay for my house $350,000. Now it's wealthy, maybe $125,000. Put the landfill over there. Nobody will buy, nobody will purchase my house for $2. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Come on.
Good afternoon. Good evening, I should say. I'm sorry. My name is Michael, and I'm a resident on McAuliffe Drive, and I am a transfer operator. I work for a garbage company that has a transfer station in the township of New Brunswick, and I live on McAuliffe Drive, and the park is directly across the street from me. My daughters, my nieces, and nephews come there to play. I just couldn't imagine that being so close to my home. Working in the transfer station with rodents, when loads are dumped, rodents, possums, skunks, they all come out of these dumpsters and they scatter, they go, and they make new homes. And I wouldn't like to see that coming around my neighborhood with my kid going to Fisher Park. Just wanted to let you know that I definitely work in the transfer station. I've been doing it for 23 years. And I'm just worried about my kids and my nieces and nephews and all my residents. Polanco lives right around the corner from me, Weber Court. And I've talked to my neighbors about it, and you know, I'm around it. I've been there and I see it. Dumpsters get dumped, and there's water, bad air, and what people dump in these dumpsters in construction sites, you never know. Sometimes it's contaminated asbestos, and we see it all the time where I work. So I just wanted to say that little piece. I want to thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Well, I'm Darren Snedeker. I live in North Brunswick, and I'm the Parks and Rec Advisory, 1270 Noah Road, off of Cousins Lane. And I'm a Parks and Rec Advisory member for North Brunswick Township, and I'm the treasurer of North Brunswick Baseball and a board of director for North Brunswick Baseball. And I'm here tonight to address a couple of concerns that our organization has, along with the Parks and Rec Committee. Our director of the Parks and Rec Committee couldn't make it tonight, but Mr. Caruso has a couple of concerns along with the rest of the committee. Our concern is about 4 years ago, we put a brand new facility into Frisch Park. We put basketball courts in there, a baseball court, a baseball field, a new playground equipment, and we consider that to be a prime location for our neighborhood in that area. Our concern is that the operations that's going to be conducting the garbage over there on the weekdays are from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Our kids usually get on the field at 5 o'clock, and with that noise and the smell that's going to occur with that dump at least 200 feet from where the park is going to be, which is crazy that you would even consider to put a landfill or a dump in that location. And Saturdays, the hours are going to be from 6 to 3. Our baseball organization, we usually get out on the fields at 10 o'clock, and our last game is at 5. So our concern is not only the wind that's going to draw the garbage across the fields, it's going to be the smell, the trucks, the garbage. It's going to be a major problem for us as an advisory committee to police that kind of activity for us to conduct a recreational activity at the park. We just are very concerned about the property values that will go down in that neighborhood for putting some kind of activity like this in the area. And as a committee member in North Brunswick Baseball, we really oppose this plan, and I urge you guys to pull this from the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hello, Freeholders. My name is Glenn Sandor, and I live at 46 Lynn Court in North Brunswick. I'm also the Director of Public Works. Thank you for allowing us to speak on this, and I have a recommendation that this topic should be given back to the SWAC committee for further consideration based on the following. The Middlesex County Solid Waste Department provided North Brunswick with a letter dated February 4th. It was addressed to various officials. As the letter noted, the application was attached, but we saw certain areas where we didn't have all the information. The site engineering plans were not attached to it. The architectural floor plans were not attached to it. The floodplain hazard determination was not there. The site plan application was not there to the city of New Brunswick. After some discussion with Richard Hills, who we appreciate, we did get that information just very recently, but we don't have enough time to look at it. The Township of North Brunswick did not have the opportunity to meet with the SWAC for the final vote. Our member was on vacation for the entire month of March, and he was not there during the key vote of the recommendations for the SWAC team. The traffic study conducted by the application considered the area near Jersey Avenue and the driveway. When the Middlesex County Solid Waste Committee considered the application for Edgeboro Landfill, another application for a couple years, the traffic study was expanded to Route 18 and adjacent roads. I would say that Route 130 north and south should be considered. Route 1 north and south should be considered in this application. Jersey Avenue, Livingston Avenue, and Howell Lane should be considered in this application as well. It was not, and we would respectfully ask that the SWAC committee study this. There are schools and parks within a mile of this proposed facility, and we think that it's important that those considerations be taken. The applicant noted that the transfer of waste are inside the facility. This is not true. There is a tipping area outside the facility. It's clearly marked on the plan, and we think that there should be consideration for that. The SWAC team made no reference that there's a tipping area outside of the facility and the building. The applicant knows that waste will be generated for mostly and predominantly within the county. How does the permit address waste originating from unknown sources? Why doesn't the SWAC simply require this in-county waste to go to Edgeboro landfill, like most waste goes to? It is estimated that 117 trucks will discharge waste inside the building. Based on a simple calculation of 117 times 5 minutes to open and close the door, my calculation is it's open 9.75 hours of the day. This is a serious amount of time to leave a door open with odors coming from the building. The loading of rail cars likely will take the same amount of time, another 9 hours, to leave the doors open for the loading of the rail cars, the drilling of the cars, the pulling of the cars, and uncoupling of the cars inside the facility. This is not acceptable. The site plan notes that there will be 12 to 25 rail cars on site. First, are these cars odor-tight, leak-proof, and locked? Will the odors escape will odors escape when the cars are out on the site? It was noted that Conrail will drill the cars on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Therefore, cars can sit on the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday with no movement of those full cars on the site. Nowhere does the application or SWAC discuss security. Where provisions are made for securing the site as well monitoring of toxic gases inside the facility during off hours. The application and the traffic impact stated that if the rail car service is not available, truck traffic will increase to 250 trucks per day. There's no discussion anywhere of what the impact will be on those additional trucks should the rail service not be available. The applicant notes that the cars will be stored on the south end of the property, which is only 300 feet from our nearest park and close to the residential. This is 1 football field length from our residence. It also appears that the site is contaminated. I've been told that the material from the Department of Defense is found on this, or Department of Energy is found on the site. Are the high level of hazardous materials on a site that can be disturbed during construction? There is no mention of this. As a matter of fact, it was discussed at the the New Brunswick Planning Board meeting, and very little input was considered for disturbing the material and the contamination already on site. Should the SWAC team investigate it? I do think they should. The feasibility of the project, the cost of the benefits to the project has not been provided. New Brunswick has a transfer station less than 1 mile away. East Brunswick has a landfill which accepts the same exact material about 2 miles away. There are lots of issues at stake in this application. North Brunswick, due to a lack of manpower, did not have sufficient time to evaluate the relevant factors. Our staff did not attend the March meeting of the SWAC. Quite frankly, we need to have an alternative member to the SWAC. But we request that the freeholders postpone this vote to allow additional comments and feedback so that we consider this. And I hope my colleague Doug Robertson will cover the rest. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Doug Robertson. I reside at 75 Merrill Avenue, East Brunswick. I'm the Superintendent of Public Works for North Brunswick and also the Mayor's SWAC representative who was missing at some critical meetings here. I was present for some discussion meetings preliminary to the site review committee visiting the site. There's a lot of information, I believe, that could have been supplied at that meeting that would have aided the SWAC committee in making a more intelligent, informed decision on this project. Everybody needs to be looking into alternate ways of disposing of materials other than the landfill. However, we really have to be careful when we start impacting residential neighborhoods. We have to be aware of actually what's out there. There were no site plan prints at the meeting that I was at the SWAC committee meeting. I think I remember correctly that I had requested if there was one, and one was not able to be produced. That's what my memory serves me anyway. Well, a couple of issues after I did get a set of the prints and got to look at them, we were able to ascertain the actual nearness of the residential communities, the actual structures, because it's not possible visually to get the full impact of where this site is in relationship across the railroad tracks, admittedly, of residential homes. Okay, in one place where the railroad tracks would have to be utilized, the new tracks being constructed, as a matter of fact, they're tracks that have to be put in place in order for this facility to operate, is about 150 feet from a residential property line. And that's a lot closer than anybody realized at the SWAC meeting, I believe. That portion wasn't even really discussed. Repeatedly in the written representations, the discussion, the operation represents itself as processing waste only inside the building, enclosed. And that was really an important point at the SWAC meeting. And now we come to find out that there's a print page that identifies an area for special waste tipping. I don't know what that means, but having that question not answered certainly is one that needs to be revisited by the SWAC committee. The number of trucks, and that's been going up and down, but as far as I can ascertain, there's about 115 trucks going to be processed through this facility, and they're going to try to avoid doing rush hour in the middle of the day, as I've read one representation. That means a window perhaps of about 10 to 2 p.m. 115 trucks through the Jersey Avenue and Howe Lane intersection. I'm not going to hazard a guess as to what that would do. I'm not sure how fast they can be processed, but certainly there's got to be some time. That needs to be looked into by some specialists, I believe. The toxics have been mentioned. The site was, in history, mentioned in the written documentation as part of the research for the Manhattan Project, which was the atomic bomb for World War II. Now, we've had some verbal representation that the toxics are now at an acceptable level, but nobody's really looked at that, and there should have been a report. If I were a purchaser of the property, there should be information about what's underneath the top surface, I would think. Now, if not, then somebody took a real good chance on this purchase from the government. Not that I wouldn't trust our federal government, but I mean, I would like to see some things in writing. And I think the SWAC committee should look at that also, just to see if it's been looked at. I think my director mentioned the doors. Another thing, just to put it in perspective, I did some quick figures, and not being the best at math, I may have made some errors, but the best that I could figure, there's 115 trucks totally that are going to be processed through this facility. Edgeboro landfill itself in 2008 processed an average of 222 trucks at the landfill. That's the entire solid waste of Middlesex County, all right? The average truckload at Edgeboro landfill, if my figures are correct, is 7.9 or almost 8 tons per truckload. In order to process the maximum loadout, which is 1,900 tons per day, including the municipal plus the C&D waste, that's 1,900 tons. With that amount, 115 trucks, each load would require 16.5 tons per load. That's double the amount going into Edgeboro landfill. Now, with these items to consider, I sincerely recommend that the freeholders table this, at least so SWAC can take another look at it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else have a comment on just Resolution 09571?
Freeholders, I'm David Roth with Greenbaum, Rowe, Smith & Davis in Woodbridge, New Jersey. We represent the applicant for the transfer station. There's a lot of information that has been presented, but I just want to make the fundamental point that the applicant is not avoiding these issues. It wants to address and fully investigate all the points that have been made. The point of this resolution is simply to authorize a public hearing for April 22nd, and we urge that be approved. This is merely one step in the process, a lengthy process that the applicant is engaging in. The applicant is not trying to avoid any of these issues. The applicant has been before the Planning Board in New Brunswick. Proper notices were given, opportunity to make comments were given. That approval was given. Similarly, the applicant has been through the process with SWAC. There was an application made, proper notices were given, there were hearings, there were no objections, and that application was approved. So this is merely one step in the process that we're going through. After this process, there will be a public hearing on April 22nd where all of these issues can be aired. We'll have an opportunity to hear them fully in more than 5 minutes apiece. We'll have a chance to address them, and then after that, they'll be considered by the freeholders. In addition, after that process, the applicant will have to go to the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, and it will then go through another review with the Department of Environmental Protection where these issues will be further studied. There'll be air studies, traffic, noise, odor, and they're going to have to pass all of the rigorous standards that the DEP sets before we get to any type of approval or any construction activities. Just very quickly with some of the points that were made, and we're not in any way minimizing them, but I just want to say, for the record, this is not a landfill or a dump, it's a transfer station. The location is in an area of New Brunswick that is zoned industrial. It's a permitted conforming use, no variances were required. It's across, it's separated from the areas that you're concerned about by a railroad track. In terms of waste and odors, the applicant has decided not to accept type 10 municipal waste, and it will be construction waste. So I think that will eliminate not all of your concerns, but a lot of concerns. As I mentioned, there'll be further traffic studies done for the DEP. In terms of the contamination issue that was raised, this property has been studied for contamination, and a no further action letter has been issued by the DEP. So in terms of the issues that you're raising on contamination, those have been looked at and studied, and there was an approval given by the state. I don't know all the technical details, but in terms of the waste activities, those will be all contained inside structures. I'm not sure what the reference was to tipping areas, but my understanding is that there will be no outside uncontained tipping areas. I think those were pretty much, I tried to address all the points, but I think the main point is that this is simply a resolution to have a public hearing on April 22nd. We welcome that hearing. We urge you to approve that so we can go forward in the process. There's really no grounds or a reasonable basis to not go forward in the process, this next step for the applicant. They've done everything right. They've given all the proper notices. They have made the studies and investigations and reports that they've been required to make, and they're certainly willing to go forward and address your issues and complete additional studies that will be required by the DEP. And that's it. I think I finished in less than 5 minutes. So.
Good, thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Good evening, Deputy Director, members of the board. My name is T.K. Shammy. I'm appearing in my capacity as Assistant City Attorney on behalf of the City of New Brunswick. And I, like Mr. Roth, have heard the concerns of the residents of North Brunswick, and I'm not necessarily going to get into the merits of this particular application, and I want to recite again that this resolution before the board is just to set down a formal hearing where all of these concerns can be aired by members of the public in North Brunswick. But for purposes of the record, and I just want to articulate some of the facts as far as the chronology goes with respect to the notice to North Brunswick. As Mr. Roth indicated, this is an industrial site. It's been zoned an industrial site since the beginning of the last century, I believe the early 1920s. This is a conforming use. This particular applicant applied to the City of New Brunswick with respect to the Planning Board back in January of '09. They also made application to SWAC, as is necessary in this particular process. In February 4th of '09, Mr. Hills, and his name has been mentioned here, provided notice to North Brunswick as well as all the other contiguous municipalities, which is required. The notice actually went to specific individuals, the clerk of the township, Mayor Womack, Mr. Robertson, who spoke, Mr. Battaglia, Craig Snedeker. Part of the notice that they did receive said that as a contiguous community, this application may impact your community. Therefore, speak up and voice any concerns. Mr. Robertson, he already indicated with his comments that he didn't make any comments at that time in objection to this particular application. It was on the agenda February 4th. SWAC discussed it. Again, they had a meeting on February 10th. The presentation was made. Mr. Robinson was there. He did not voice any concerns with respect to the application and apparently didn't volunteer to be on the site committee, which goes out and views the site in connection with the application. There was a site committee, subcommittee inspection on March 4th. Mr. Robinson wasn't there. He didn't view the property. Just to back up a little bit, the Township of North Brunswick also received notices by the applicant, according to the City of New Brunswick's records, 5 separate notices in connection with the planning application. Those went out on February 27th. They have proof of those as well. No one appeared at the planning board meeting in New Brunswick on behalf of the Township of North Brunswick to object to this application. Obviously, the city is constrained to follow law with respect to an applicant's application, and they did so. Ultimately, SWAC held a meeting on March 10th. That particular subcommittee reported back. They recommended to this board that this particular application be set down for a hearing, and their recommendation was approval. The reason I go through, by the way, at the same time, at the night of the 10th, the planning board approved this particular application. The reason I go through the chronology, ladies and gentlemen, is because in the process of this particular application, Mr. Roth said it very well, we're not done here. This is just merely to set down the hearing date, the public hearing date for April 22nd, and everyone could voice their concerns and have their questions addressed. If this board ultimately approves the application, there's still hurdles, so to speak, that have to be jumped with respect to concerns of the residents in North Brunswick. The other issues that, and I believe Mr. Roth also said these, that, you know, the city of New Brunswick would not want to do anything that would be deleterious to its residents nor any neighboring community. This is a transfer station. It's not a dump. It's not a landfill. Quite frankly, and I think somebody mentioned it earlier, there is a major rail line separating the city of New Brunswick property from the North Brunswick property. It's my understanding that's the most heavily traveled rail line in the United States, and I could imagine with respect to noise and concerns of that nature from just the rail lines. So it is an industrial area. We urge, on behalf of the city of New Brunswick, that this particular process just take its course, and that this board approve the resolution. Boy, that was 5 minutes. That goes quick, huh? I'd like to get that across the street, actually. Approve the resolution and set this down for a public hearing. And all these issues could be addressed. And as you heard from the applicant's representation, I'm sure everyone will be satisfied in the end. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening, freeholders.
Good evening.
My name is Vito Palaio. I'm a resident of North Brunswick.
Good to see you, Vito.
I don't blame Mr. Shammy supporting the resolution, but it affects North Brunswick because the area that they're going to put this affects North Brunswick. All the residents of North Brunswick, the traffic and everything else. And we consider you to look at this very closely before you vote on it. It affects the residents of North Brunswick. It doesn't affect the residents of New Brunswick. Yes, Jersey Avenue is an industrial area, but I live right across the street from where this place is going to be taking place. I urge the freeholders to check this very closely before you vote on it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else? At this time, I'd like to call on Rich Hills to come up and talk about the process up to date. Rich is the division manager of solid waste. And that's for the benefit of the board and also the public.
Thank you, Freeholder Director.
You're welcome.
Deputy Director, excuse me. Okay. The Solid Waste Advisory Council, for those of you who aren't aware of it, is an advisory council that's appointed by the Board of Chosen Freeholders. And the Solid Waste Advisory Council is required under state statute to be formed in all 21 counties of the state of New Jersey. Automatically, in Middlesex County, the Board of Chosen Freeholders, when they established the Solid Waste Advisory Council in the early 80s, indicated that all 25 mayors of the towns of the county would be members of SWAC, and that they provided for the space for 25 at-large voting members of SWAC. Since that time, there's been many iterations of the solid waste management plan for the county, which each county in the state of New Jersey is required by law to have, or the New Jersey DEP can sanction the county by withholding monies that are due it from various sources, from tipping fees, so on and so forth. The iterations of the solid waste management plan led to a Board of Chosen Freeholder and New Jersey DEP approved criteria for the inclusion of any solid waste or recycling facility in the county. That process has been set and has been in place for approximately 7 years. That criteria document was provided upon request to the applicant in late December. On January 9th of 2009, we received an application from a company that was going to call itself Aero, E-A-R-O, LLC, to operate a materials recovery transfer station at 986 Jersey Avenue. The normal procedure is that we get a complete narrative that must address all of the issues in the criteria and must be accompanied by certain documentation that's required to be submitted by the applicant. Site plans, studies that they have completed, notifications that are required to be made, so on and so forth. That was all received by us, documented and logged in, and on January 22nd, while we were preparing our response and our communication to the Solid Waste Advisory Council, we were informed that the company wished to change its name from EARL or Aero LLC to 986 Jersey Avenue LLC. By criteria, I then alerted not only the host municipality, but the 4 contiguous municipalities to New Brunswick, they being Piscataway, Highland Park, North Brunswick, and Edison, because those towns in one way, shape, or form are contiguous to New Brunswick. The letter was sent out to me, and we have a list identified in the criteria as to the officials in those towns that must be notified that an application has been followed, or has been filed, excuse me. The only person in town that the clerk in town gets a complete set of the application. The other persons on the carbon copy list are told that the clerk has a copy of the application, and it is clearly stated in the letter that I send out to all applicants that because of the volume of documents that come in with the application, it would be physically and financially impossible for us to photocopy every single document and send it to the host town and to the contiguous towns. So what we do is that we tell the clerks, we are sending you the written application that complies with the criteria, and all you need to do is contact us and come in at any time and look over the site plans and any other backup documentation that's presented with the application, upon which a decision is made or a recommendation is made from the Division of Solid Waste Management to the Solid Waste Advisory Council. The Division of Solid Waste Management has principal planners on its staff. They do not possess the technical expertise that representatives from the New Jersey DEP do, but they've been trained and educated to look for certain things that we would need to know here in the county as to whether or not the applicant that we have before us, the application that we have before us, is suitable to be cited within the borders of the county. And we've done hundreds of, over the last 20 years, we've done hundreds of plan applications, and we've included dozens of facilities in the county. We're probably the only county in the state of New Jersey that has every possible facility that state law allows: recycling, solid waste, transfer station, a landfill. As I said earlier, the thing that we do is we tell the host municipality as well as the contiguous municipalities that we suggest that because the site or the plan, the application, and the facility may impact them, we suggest strongly that they have a representative from their town step up and be a part of the site inspection subcommittee, which again is a routine part of the process. Every application gets a site inspection subcommittee assigned to it. We need to see where the facility is going. We need to look at the site plans as compared to the facility, and we need to make a judgment on different aspects of the project. None of the contiguous municipalities came forward to participate on the site inspection subcommittee, which was formed after the application was introduced. And at the introduction of the application on February the 10th, there were questions asked by the representatives there on SWAC, and the questions were answered satisfactorily. And if they weren't answered satisfactorily, it's our job in the Division of Solid Waste Management to make sure that we get the answers and have them prepared for response to the next Solid Waste Advisory Council. The normal procedure is, first meeting is an introduction. We then form a site inspection subcommittee, and on the next meeting of SWAC, the meeting following the introduction, we make a recommendation. First off, we reopen the floor for questions, and then based on any input, the chairman of SWAC asks that a vote be considered for a recommendation to the Board of Chosen Freeholders to include a facility in the county plan. That's exactly what happened here. Solid Waste Advisory Council was asked at its meeting in March after the inspection, which occurred on March the 4th, that the Board of Chosen Freeholders be sent the application for consideration of plan inclusion, which automatically by statute requires that we convene a public hearing first. The notices that are required by state statute were all taken out. We have copies of the affidavit of publication that are required by statute on file. On March the 10th, unfortunately, the representative from North Brunswick Township was not present. And I'd like to also indicate, as I did earlier, that none of the contiguous municipalities that were in attendance, if any, at the meeting in February, did not volunteer to serve on the site inspection subcommittee. On the 16th, on March 16th, I sent a request, as I normally do in every case. I sent a request to the Board of Chosen Freeholders to allow me to convene a public hearing. And based on the statute, I can only convene a public hearing based on the time frame which is specifically stated in the statute. And the statute says that the second publication of the notice of the public hearing cannot occur more than 10 days before the public hearing. So taking my calendar out, counted the days, and April 22nd is the date on which the public hearing will be held. Kind of an appropriate date because it's Earth Day also. But neither here nor there, the request on the agenda tonight, Freeholders, is to allow us to advertise, to publish a notice that will allow us to convene a public hearing on April 22nd. Any questions?
Thank you.
Any questions for any freeholder? I don't have any questions. Thank you. Is this on resolution 09571?
He's already spoken.
Oh, you already spoke, sir. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just listening to the presentation here, and I've only lived in the county since, 1998.
Your name?
Karina Wilkinson, Highland Park. The gentleman from the Solid Waste Department, or wherever he's from, said he notified the 4 contiguous towns to New Brunswick, naming North Brunswick, Edison, Piscataway, Highland Park. So I'm just wondering if East Brunswick was notified. Is East Brunswick not contiguous with New Brunswick?
Does East Brunswick touch North Brunswick? I mean,
New Brunswick. All along Route 1? You said there are 4 contiguous towns to New Brunswick. New Brunswick. You left out East Brunswick. There's 5.
We'll take a look at that.
Okay,
Rich,
I've only
please
been
take
in the
that.
county
Right.
since 1998, 10 years, okay?
Mhm.
You're sitting here, you're listening to this, these guys are saying, we didn't get notification, and I have to stand up here because I happen to be here for another reason to say there's 5 contiguous towns to North Brunswick? I mean,
they
to
live
New
in North
Brunswick?
Brunswick. They said they didn't receive notification. Mr. Hill said they did. They're not in East Brunswick.
Well, was
you-
East Brunswick notified? He
He's
said
gonna-
no.
he's gonna check on
He
that.
said no.
I can tell you I did not.
Okay.
He did not notify East Brunswick. He didn't notify all the contiguous towns to New Brunswick.
Rich, check on that, please, and let
I
the
mean,
Board of Freeholders
what's going
know.
on, you guys? I'm only here 10 years. You're here how many years? How many years have you been in this county, Deputy Director?
I don't understand your point.
How many years have you been in the county of Middlesex to not know that there's 5 contiguous municipalities to New Brunswick?
You're saying what you're saying, but you're
I'm asking you how many
Ma'am,
years you've been in the
no.
county.
Anybody
Okay,
have any
it's
other
not
questions?
relevant. You're right, okay.
Yes, sir.
So basically, if he has not notified East Brunswick, this whole process should just start over again. As far as it seems, you haven't followed they haven't followed the law, and you keep saying he needs to look into this. He's saying we didn't notify them, so you guys should scrap this thing tonight. And if you vote on it, I think it's a total bunch of you know what. Also, you guys say this is a transfer facility. I've worked in construction before. And some of the stuff that ends up in those dumpsters is not stuff that you would want less than 200 feet from a park, all right? You said you notified people. Did you post signs for those kids in that park, okay, that are going to be that close to that transfer facility? I mean, somebody needs to do their due diligence around here. There's accountability, okay? That's on that point. One other thing that I wanted to bring up, what sort of, if they're going to put this thing here, you know, stuff ends up in those facilities, transfer facilities, that you wouldn't want that close to a park. Is there going to be, what sort of regulations are in place? I'm sure that the state has some regulations, but I probably shouldn't even be talking about this because you guys, you know, need to notify East Brunswick. Thank you.
Rich, I have a question for you in light of what has just come out. Is it a requirement or courtesy notification of the contiguous?
It's written into the criteria that we will contact contiguous municipalities. When we look at the location of the site and the surrounding towns, we identify the surrounding towns that border on the host community.
Okay.
I have questions.
You spoke already, sir. I'm sorry.
Why don't you testify and you can talk to him.
Okay. That's okay. I think in light of what's come up, I'd like to recess for 5 minutes, if I may. So I assume motion for recess.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Thank you. We're now going to resume the meeting. At this time, I'd like to call upon Assistant County Counsel for a comment.
Thank you. Good evening. Nikki Athanasopoulos, Deputy County Counsel, and I'm also counsel to the Solid Waste Advisory Council. For purposes of clarification with the last comments that were made, the Solid Waste Management Act provides for specific criteria with respect to the application requirements. In addressing the final comments in putting East Brunswick Township as a contiguous municipality on notice, the requirements provide that the county will inform the mayor and SWAC representative of any contiguous municipality that might reasonably be impacted by the facility that the application has been submitted. In this case, the SWAC director, Rich Hills, made a determination that East Brunswick would not be reasonably impacted by the location of this facility on Jersey Avenue. And based on that, East Brunswick was not put on notice by Mr. Hills. However, East Brunswick was in fact put on notice when this item was placed on the SWAC agenda for the February 10th meeting. The East Brunswick SWAC representative, Joseph Patrica, who is also the recycling coordinator, was provided with a copy of the application and corresponding documentation. Lastly, the application was also, East Brunswick was also put on notice by way of a public notice which was issued by the applicant in the Home News Tribune, which was published on March 4th. Therefore, based on those three different items, notice was properly given to the Township of East Brunswick as well as all municipalities in the County of Middlesex.
Nikki, before you sit down, is it your opinion that this matter can proceed to a public hearing?
Absolutely. The item on the agenda is to authorize a public hearing, hearing all the voices of concerns from the citizens of North Brunswick. All of those concerns can be clearly set forth and reserved at the public hearing, at which time they can reiterate their concerns and can provide additional testimony and reports and what have you.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else on Resolution 09571? Okay, I'd like to move to the rest of the agenda. Anybody have any comments on the remainder of the resolutions on the agenda? I need a motion to close.
So moved.
Second.
Motion to close public hearing by Freeholder Rios, seconded by Freeholder Valente. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Does any freeholder have any resolution they wish to have removed from the consent agenda and voted on separately?
Yes, I have one, Deputy Director. It's on page 7, Resolution 09571.
And
Okay.
Freeholder, I have one also, on page 4, 09535.
535.
Correct.
Anybody else? Okay, Mr. Kelso.
Yes, Deputy Director, at this time, a motion would be in order to adopt a consent agenda consisting of resolutions numbers 09507 through 09582, excluding Resolution 09581, which was previously voted upon, Resolution 09526, which is to be held, Resolution 09560, which is to be voided, and Resolutions 09535 and 09571 to be voted upon separately.
I need a motion.
Second.
Motion by Freeholder Rios, seconded by Freeholder Barrett. Roll call.
Freeholder Barrett.
Yes.
Freeholder Rios.
Yes.
Freeholder Scott.
Yes.
Freeholder Valente.
Yes?
Freeholder Deputy Director Rafano.
Yes.
At this time, a motion would be in order to adopt Resolution 09571, which was separated by Freeholder Valente.
So moved. Motion.
Second.
Motion by Freeholder Barrett, second by Freeholder Rios. Roll call.
Freeholder Barrett.
Yes.
Freeholder Rios.
Yes.
Freeholder Scott.
Yes.
Freeholder Valente.
President not voting. I'm a resident of New Brunswick and a member of the town council, so I can't deliberate on this.
Freeholder Deputy Director Rafano.
Yes.
And the next resolution, which was to be voted upon separately, is Resolution 09535.
Motion?
Second.
Motion by Freeholder Valente, second by Freeholder Rios. Roll call.
Freeholder Barrett.
Present, not voting.
Freeholder Rios.
Yes.
Freeholder Scott.
Yes.
Freeholder Valente.
Yes.
Freeholder Deputy Director Rafano.
Yes. Okay, at this time, I'd like to open the meeting to the general public. Remember, it's a 5-minute rule. On any topic. Yes, ma'am.
Phyllis Batko, 5 Glen Court, Parlin. Okay. I'm here tonight to represent the Sayreville Board of Education, and with me I have the majority of the Board of Education with us tonight, our PTO presidents, one of our principals to represent us, and our Education Association president is here as well. What we'd like to talk about is we have solicited the Board of Elections to move some of the polls out of our schools. We've been working on this now for 2.5 years. So I'd like to just go through a timeline of where we started and how we got here today.
Mm-hmm.
This started back in October of 2006 when we sent a letter to the municipal clerk requesting the relocation of the polls. She in turn told us that by state statute we had to request that from the County Board of Elections. So in April 2007, we sent the same request to the Board of Elections, and we did copy the freeholders. A week later, we did receive a response from Mr. Crabiel, and he said that someone would contact us from the election board. However, that never happened. I personally have attended the Borough Council meetings on 2 separate occasions, and I did poll the mayor and council and ask if they had any objections, and they do not have any. I did speak to Mr. Vokrol about this. He had requested that I go back to the municipal clerk, and he said they normally work through the municipal clerk, and it would be up to our municipal clerk to provide the locations that were handicap accessible, and then the Board of Elections would come out and inspect them. So I did go back to the municipal clerk. She complied with Mr. Vogel's request. She sent him a letter in May of 2008 with the alternate locations of where she wanted to move the polls. Since then, there's been dialogue back and forth with the municipal clerk and the Board of Elections, and we were told we were going to be on an agenda for the Board of Election meeting, but that never happened either. In February 2009, I reached out to the county clerk's office for help, and they had told me that Mr. Volker was on vacation and that we should be getting a response shortly, but we didn't. So subsequently, I went to Freeholder Polos, and I know he's not here tonight, but I do want to thank him for his help, because he did finally get us the letter we'd been waiting for 2.5 years. It was a denial of our request, but that's what brought us here today, because we were denied to move the polls. So the problems that we have tonight are the borough clerk did find acceptable locations to everyone. The principals of the schools, the mayor and council, the Board of Education, the parents, were all together. We all want this done. The locations are acceptable to everyone. So what we're asking you for tonight is help to please maybe put some pressure on the Board of Elections and get this through. Mr. Volker did send us a letter, and in it he said that the preferences for schools and public buildings. The other buildings that were chosen by the municipal clerk is a first aid building and a recreation center. The 3 poles that she had asked to move, 2 schools have only 1 pole in it. She's requesting to move those to our first aid building. The other school, our Wilson School, has 4 poles, which is our biggest problem. She's requesting to move that to our recreation building, which only has 1 pole in it. Both of these locations are very good locations. They have ample parking, which our schools do not. We're just really at a loss as to why our request was denied. Okay.
Just one question, if I may. When we talk about for the purpose of the elections, are we talking both general elections as well as school board elections?
Yes, we're talking for all elections. We originally put forth this request, and it was really a safety request for the safety of the children. That was our major goal in trying to do this.
Just, I'll make sure I understand. So it's both the school board elections as well as
Yes,
elections?
yes, it would be all elections.
You know, I'll make a suggestion if I can, John. As you know, the Board of Elections is an autonomous
Yes, I know.
agency.
I expected that.
But certainly, I think we can make arrangements to have a meeting with Jim Volker, who's the director, oversees it, and yourself to at least get an explanation as to why they denied that request.
What I'd like to recommend, too, is if I can coordinate that with you, and at the end of the meeting, just or provide to Margaret Pemberton your name and phone number. And what I'd like to do is coordinate a meeting with both Freeholder Millie Scott, myself, Jim Volker, and whoever you think is appropriate, so we just make sure we understand and see if there's any opportunities that we could avail ourselves to try to address some of the concerns you have. As Deputy Director Rafano has indicated, they are an autonomous board, but if we can help in some way that address some of the concerns and move forward on some, we'd be more than willing to help.
Okay, there are some other people here that'd like to address the specific school issues that are with us, and I did bring a copy of the correspondence for you that has been going on.
Thank you, Phyllis. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Mike McEnone, 29 Zaleski Drive, Sayville. I am the president of the Sayville Board of Education. Mrs. Backo just kind of gave you a chronological order of this we're doing. I feel like for the last couple of years I'm practicing bleeding here. Based on what you heard tonight, this is really too easy. We have 2 schools where we don't have enough parking for our staff. And then we're bringing people in all parts of the school day to park, and there's no place to park. Now, obviously, in this day and age, it's not a wise decision or prudent to have people coming into the school that don't belong there when we have students present. So I think our argument is very cogent to the reason why to move these things. We have 2 suitable locations that the borough clerk is already blessed. The borough council is okay with. They have ample parking. And with a voter turnout of 14 to 17%, we should be doing everything we can to make it convenient for people to get out of their car, go vote, and get back in their car and go on their way. And that's what we're here tonight to ask you. And I'm reminded, on the 40th anniversary of our nation's landing on the moon, that we were a superpower. Surely we can do this. This is not something that it requires much work. Everything's in place. All we simply need is a letter from the Board of Elections to say, go ahead and do this, because everything's in motion. Now, I'm not saying that we can do this by this current school board election in April. That's not what our motivation is, but certainly by the primaries is feasible, and certainly by the general election in November should not be a problem. And I know, as you mentioned, sir, that the Board of Elections are autonomous, but they're appointed by somebody. And I'm here tonight to ask you to lend the weight of your authority to either convince, motivate, coerce, whatever you need to do to allow them to do this, because we in Sayville, we're ready to move on this. And it seems like we have this bureaucracy that's just in slow motion, and it's getting very frustrating. So I appreciate that if you can do that, and we look forward to working with whoever you appoint to work with us to make this happen. So again, thank you for your time this evening. Yes, ma'am.
The alternative places that have been suggested, are they ADA accessible?
More so than the schools are. Matter of fact, one of the schools we have, it has a problem with handicap accessibility. It's a first aid squad that's relatively new, has ample parking, and both locations, I paced it myself, are within a mile of the school. And actually, if you look at the map, they're more centralized to the voting location in that district than the schools are. So everything that, there's no reason not to do this. And I would be, I'm just be amazed that we would struggle this when we've done all the work, and that's why we have a municipal clerk, is to make that happen. So,
thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thanks. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Georgia Bauman. I live at 89 Cleveland Avenue in South River. I am the principal of Wilson School, one of the schools that was just discussed by our board members. I speak tonight for all of the principals, but Wilson is really one of the greatest concerns. It was built in 1930. It's in the oldest section of Sayreville. It's very difficult to get to the school. Our parking normally for our teachers only provides less than half for them. The rest park on the street. When we have an election, I must cone off using cones or cordon off parts of the playground. On more than one occasion, I've had to chase down people who ran over the cones and were coming toward the buses when we were loading them, impacting on children's safety. It isn't just the parking in that area that concerns me, however. Every other day of the year, the building is locked up. You cannot enter without ringing a bell, explaining who you are, and we look at you on a camera. On election day, the double front doors are open. The side doors to the playground are open. We have 4 poles in Wilson, and they are in the auditorium, which is in a central location and has 4 entryways. So if you enter in, we can't watch everybody all the time. You can exit out a back door, and you can go upstairs because it is a second-story, 2-story building. When people come in, you pass classrooms, children's lavatories, and the cafeteria. I'm going to give you some statistics from the last election because I wanted to find out how many people wandered the hallways in Wilson. And you must remember something else. Wilson was the high school originally. So many people come looking for their old lockers where their science classroom was. We had 9 people that we stopped in the hallways. One lady got online in the cafeteria to have lunch because she thought it was cheap to eat lunch with the children. You can't make these things up. Several people wanted to see their children's classroom. 3 people wanted to find their old classrooms when they were in the high school. One gentleman burst into the faculty lounge while the teachers were eating and shouted out, "I had to come in here to visit you because this was my old cooking class." This was a day in the life of an election at Wilson School. As you can see, many, many things could happen. We can laugh at this, but this isn't funny if someone walks into that building that is not the person that you want to be around those children. For the sake of all of our children and for all that we've tried to do there and for all of the safety programs, I believe we were just talking about how Middlesex County has this wonderful program, and Mr. Barry Eck, who is a Sayreville person, is involved with us all the time. So I would think it would behoove us all to think about the safety of the schools and the children and looking at the light of the world today. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Yeah. Oh, you're in line. Come on up. I'm sorry. No.
Cedric Goodman, New Brunswick. I have two comments or 2 concerns that I want to address you with that affects my neighborhood and affects our community. I attended the Board of Education meeting on the 17th of March, and like everyone else, we are all experiencing the budget cuts and the restraints on our financial apparatus of our cities, our states, and of course the nation. But what I wanted to talk about was that we have an issue with the paraprofessionals that are currently their budget is currently under review with the superintendent of the education, Middlesex County Superintendent of Education, Dr. Barari. I think I spoke to him. I had a very productive conversation with him about the budget to see whether or not is there any room or any recommendation that we can make somehow to include in the budget extra funds to keep the paraprofessionals. Right now there's consideration to eliminate 70 positions of paraprofessionals within the New Brunswick Public Schools. That concerns me because, one, I'm a product of New Brunswick, and I went to the school systems here, and we need every advocate and every resource that we can to help these children get their quality of education here. So I wanted to bring that to your attention and find out if we could also write a letter or support the recommendation of additional funds that's going to go to the commissioner in Trenton, the education commissioner, to make sure that we do get our necessary funding to help keep their jobs as well as not eliminate these positions. Okay. Finally, in conclusion, I've been in contact with the prosecutor's office about a situation that affected. I mean, it's 1 block from my house. It affects my area. There was a serial rapist that was released from prison 2 years ago, and he lived 1 block from my house. I would watch him walk up and down the street every day for 2 years. This particular individual, I went to school with his sister, actually. This particular individual, though, is considered a serial rapist, a pedophile, and he was released, and by law, Megan's Law requires, New Jersey Megan's Law requires that we all be notified in the community. And I got notified, and I thought maybe, it would be okay eventually, or they would monitor this particular gentleman, I thought. However, just a month ago, he committed another rape. It was in the newspaper, and he's arrested. He's in jail right now. I've contacted Lieutenant Ingram at the prosecutor's office. I'm waiting for a follow-up to find out whether or not he's going to be released, because this particular individual that he did assault was 18. And anyone knows when it comes down to the street life, so to speak, if he says it was consensual, they may eventually let him out again. However, the problem is they released him next to the school. Roosevelt School is right here. His address is next to Townsend Street, 2 houses in Townsend Street. Roosevelt School's around the corner. So how he got released back into the community and right by the school where the children are is kind of appalling to me. However, I was advised that by law, the only thing they're required to do is advise the community that this person's been released. So I would like to see if I could follow up or have someone from the prosecutor's office contact me to find out, to make sure that this guy, if he is released again, does not come back by the school or in our community again. So those are the 2 issues that I had to bring to your attention. And again, like I said, we definitely need those 70 paraprofessionals to maintain their jobs and to stay within the school systems if we can find some other alternatives. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Next.
Good evening. My name is Barbara Mangiaracina. I live at 52 Buchanan Avenue, Harlan. I'm the parent of 2 children who attend Sayreville Public Schools. My children attend Harry S. Truman Elementary School, of which I am the former PTO president, and the Samsell Upper Elementary School. I am also a substitute for the school district. I strongly urge you to remove the polling places from our schools. In many of our school buildings, the voting machines are only 20 feet away from classrooms. I understand that they are police protected, but if something goes wrong, who will be the first one hurt? During our recent presidential election day, someone who wanted to vote entered Truman School through the back doors, which were open to allow staff to enter at the beginning of the school day. This could have been a terrible tragedy had the staff of the school not noticed the person and asked them to leave the building. There is another reason why I believe the polls should be moved. The New Jersey Department of Education does not allow Election Day as an excused absence from school. So if a parent chooses to keep their child home, as I did to keep my children safe and protect them, the child will ruin their perfect attendance for the year. I stand firmly behind the Sayreville Board of Education members who have worked so tirelessly on this issue for the past 2 years. They have found places to move the polls. Tonight, as a concerned resident and taxpayer, I ask you on behalf of my children and those who don't have anyone to represent them at this meeting to remove the polling places from our schools. Thank you.
Hi, Karina Wilkinson, Highland Park. I'm here because the governor had a press release this week on his governor's Blue Ribbon Advisory Panel on Immigrant Policy. I'm wondering, in particular, if Blanquita Valenti and Millie Scott, freeholders, are aware of this?
Yes.
Okay. Have you had a chance to take a look at it?
I read the newspaper article. I did not
Okay.
see that.
I had not read it,
Okay,
no.
well, I figured you might not have seen it in detail, so I wanted to read you a piece of the recommendations that are going to the governor. In particular, one piece on immigrant detainees held in municipal or county jails says that counties and municipalities who operate jails or contract with private correctional firms should establish community-based jail advisory boards as another way of ensuring basic human rights for those who are arrested or detained. I'll read you a little more, but I want to ask your opinion, Millie Scott, freeholder, if you would consider some community-based jail advisory board in advance of, the governor has accepted these proposals from the panel, all except for something about ID cards, but it says those jurisdictions that operate jails and accept ICE detainees, as Middlesex County does, would work with the advisory board to ensure detainees have access to family, nonprofit, and faith-based organizations that may be able to assist with legal issues and ensure communication between the detainee and his or her family and consular offices. They would be able to monitor basic jail or correctional facility standards, such as detainee access to telephone visitors and consular officers, the provision of language-accessible information about jail standards and rights of detainees, and the appropriate separation of immigrants detained for civil non-criminal violations of federal immigration laws from the general jail populace. Another option would be for the jail or correctional facility to establish an immigration hotline and a coalition of ethnic groups, such as the New Jersey Ethnic Advisory Council, so that immigrant detainees could call on representatives of their own communities or immigrants serving nonprofit organizations for legal and economic assistance with their immigration issues. That's for the counties. At the state level, they're talking about that they should work with the Department of Homeland Security and ICE to keep detainees in the general area, meaning geographical region where they're arrested, if the space is available, so detainees can have access to family and humanitarian support. So what we're asking you to do is get ahead of the curve, to establish a community-based advisory board, to look for alternatives to detention for those detainees who are not in jail for criminal violations. $15 a night for parole versus $100 a night you could be getting from the federal government for supervising these people who are awaiting detainee hearing, deportation hearings, and keeping people, not separating them from their families. This is again about the children. Many of these children are American citizens. Some are, some aren't, but that's the issue that the governor, I urge you to read the report. I urge you to read the sections on Middlesex. Some others are going to talk about other sections on Middlesex County. One of the things they're saying is that since the fugitive operation teams have been put into place by ICE, they've established quotas. And in fiscal year 2007, of the 2,079 arrested, 1,809 had no criminal history. That means that 2,079 arrested in New Jersey in fiscal year 2007, 1,809 had no criminal history. So it's really hard to think of Middlesex County Jail having 150 to 200 a night, getting all of the 200 per year that had criminal records. Now, you may have put in place a request to get those people that do not, those people that do have criminal histories, but you are going to be catching up people who have no criminal history, and that's what we're objecting to, those people being held in our jail. So if you see the numbers, it's just hard to believe that, as you said last time, all the people that are being held in Middlesex are, all the immigrant detainees are criminals.
I will read it.
Okay, it's 120 pages, so there's some
I'll read it.
there's some relevant to Middlesex County, and there's a lot going to be coming down in legislation and in federal changes in the law, and I'm just saying, why not get ahead of the curve? Why stay back in, 2000, 2001, that kind of thinking? I mean, we can be getting money for the county for having people out in the community awaiting a deportation hearing. They don't have to be incarcerated where we're not taking care of their medical care, as you know. Thank you.
Dan Cummings, 1084 Stelton Road, Piscataway, New Jersey. Okay, I'm also here to talk about the immigrant detention issue, the immigrant detention or internment center in North Brunswick. Over the past few weeks, and in the past week specifically, on the national, state, and local level, there's been a lot of action in terms of immigrant detention and immigrants' rights, and I think Karina's right. I think you guys need to get ahead of the curve. On the local level, I don't know if you guys saw this. This is from Wednesday, April 1st. The title of the story, Church Rallies for Immigrant. There was a man from Avenel, who's a member of the Reformed Church of Highland Park, who had no criminal record, was taken from his family and placed in a detention center which is privately owned, run by the Corrections Corporation of America, can't make that up, in Elizabeth, and he had a very good support group there, was sent all the way to Tacoma, Washington this week, ripped from, if you could see on here, his wife and his two children. His two children are American citizens. So that's, a local issue, and I think you guys need to know that this is the type of stuff that is happening when we pick up people who have no criminal records and put them in these detention facilities. There's a story behind each one of them. And as Karina said, most of these people, the vast majority, are not criminals. And there's no way that they should be taken away from their families. On the state level, we talked about how the Blue Ribbon Panel came out. I passed out the issue of the Jail Advisory Board. And then on the national level, the Department of Homeland Security head, who's in charge of ICE, Janet Napolitano, feels that we need to cut down on the raids in the workplace, okay? Talking about getting ahead of the curve, I think that this is just the first step, all right? Getting rid of the raids in the workplace, getting rid of the raids at home. If you guys still have this immigrant detention facility running, the way that it's going to be shut down is one of two ways, okay? Public opposition, or it's going to be shut down because, there's going to be no more of these sweeps, okay? I hope it's shut down yesterday, but, it hasn't been. I think that what we need to do is make a stand for immigrants, make a stand for immigrants' rights, make a stand for human rights, okay? This is not a place where we snatch people up in the middle of the night, steal them from their families, and throw them in a detention center. This is not what we stand for, okay? I know that there's a lot of money to be made out of this, but it doesn't matter, okay? It doesn't matter. This is money that is being funneled into Middlesex County, and enough people are saying, not in my name, okay? I know there's money to be made off of this. I know that it's a difficult time financially for the county and for everyone, but the fact that there's money to be made doesn't mean that human rights should be violated consistently. Every day that facility is open, human rights are violated. And thank you very much.
My name is Aaron Todd, 79 Lawrence Avenue, Highland Park. I find this daunting. It's over 300 pages long, and it is about immigrant policy and various recommendations about that. One of the things that brings me to this meeting and previous meetings is how painful it is to read and understand something about the distinctions made between human rights and civil rights. How painful it is for me to read the New York Times about detentions and death in detention facilities in this country. How really painful it is to somehow recognize that if someone is not a citizen or not yet a citizen, that person and that person's family may be subjected to the kind of treatment that we would only expect to find in Europe in the 1930s and during the Second World War. These are serious matters. If anybody has read Hannah Arendt's book on Eichmann in Jerusalem, one understands that some countries manage to mistreat people by making them non-citizens and therefore beyond the reach of courts. This is not completely and totally about Middlesex County, but there are parts about Middlesex County, and the particular part that I would like to draw your attention to has to do with the sanctuary city legislation, which in the first sentence describes sanctuary status in cities, also called safe haven cities, choose to foster a high level of trust between immigrant community and law enforcement officials in a given municipality. This is something that, of course, is absolutely essential for police authorities to properly protect their communities, the people who live in their communities, rather than to somehow try to check them all out as to whether they're documented or not. Giving residents some confidence that they will be protected in their lives and their property is something that really constitutes a kind of human right, not just a civil right. I'm just going to look at the last page and a couple of the recommendations, and I'd like to just alert you to them, partly because they're things that need to be addressed for the reasons suggested by Karina and Dan. The first finding in this case study is the community responses to demographic change in Middlesex County measured through opinion pieces published in local newspapers demonstrate an anti-immigrant sentiment. And I think we're all familiar with some of those letters. And perhaps we are affected by them in our own votes and our own lives. Most tensions are caused by perception of undocumented immigrants' disproportionate use of public services. Indeed, major challenges facing policymakers in the county involve new, increased demand for public services, namely education, specifically language instruction, healthcare, and transportation. All of these certainly are pressures that are felt not just by you, but also by the taxation structure. But nonetheless, are important to support. I'm going to skip towards the end. There are a couple of policy recommendations that I'll mention, and I'll ask you to think about them seriously. It is daunting, the amount of material here, but it is something that some people have put some serious thought into, and I think it requires all of us having some consideration for them. One of the policy recommendations is to the Middlesex County Department of Human Services. Middlesex County should establish the proposed office of Hispanic Affairs within the Department of Human Services, and there's some material about supporting that. To the Middlesex County Department of Human Services, the county should maintain its partnership with the United Way of Central New Jersey to regularly update the existing database of services available to immigrants. And I think one of the things that is touched on in the material here is that some of these legislative type things somehow don't get put into effect. And you might consider as to why that might in fact be the case. I want to thank you very much for allowing me to give some sort of presentation here.
You're welcome.
Please, once again, human rights and civil rights and the rights of citizenship should not be all that different so that we mistreat people who we believe are not here properly or legally. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Carlo?
Carlos Oshio. Mr. Fano, may I ask Mr. Hills 2 questions if possible?
Sure.
Mr. Hills, quick question. Should Franklin Township have been notified in this process? Because they're in an outside county?
I'm sorry?
Because they're in an outlying county? I mean, they are a contiguous community, but I realize that they're in Somerset County. Is that the reason why? Okay. In your determination, in the original notification, what made Piscataway and Highland Park an area of concern and East Brunswick not, when East Brunswick and Highland Park and Piscataway are really of equal distance from where the facility will be and really have no impact? I mean, no impact besides maybe some residual traffic, but quite frankly, if indeed you're going to leave out East Brunswick, it would almost make sense to leave out Piscataway and Highland Park in the initial notification.
The reason that East Brunswick was left out, and again, it's my determination that a municipality would be reasonably impacted. Based on information that we have accrued over a period of time, the majority of solid waste vehicles that are using Route 1 are either using it for the purposes of going to the landfill in East Brunswick, or they are transfer trailers that are on our Route 1 or Route 18 every single day going out of state.
All right. Well, for now, we'll leave that one alone. I guess we'll address that on April 22nd. To the Freeholder Board, listen, I came here tonight, and I think that the residents of North Brunswick came here tonight expecting this to be moved to the public hearing. And the problem that I have is that, you know, we all deal in the world of perception. We all know that. And it seems like that, well, let me backtrack a second. First of all, North Brunswick Township is not disputing whether we received notification. Rich, you and I have spoken about that. We acknowledge that notification had been given to us. We also realize that for purposes of the planning board meetings, we do lie outside the 200-foot radius, and therefore the residents would not get notification because that train track provides a buffer that's more than 200 feet. When the question was brought up about East Brunswick and the notification, you know, it seems like at the very least, and I didn't ask, and no one did ask to say, let's kill this right here and right now. That may be our goal on April 22nd, but we did realize what the process is. But there seemed to be a window in order to put the public hearing on hold temporarily and get some further review by the SWAC committee based on our testimony, and then based on the lack of notification to East Brunswick as a contiguous community. When you guys came out, and you know, we get frustrated at our council meetings also with the legal speak and what seems like, you know, legal excuses. And I guess I'm a little angry because I got affected in that way tonight. You know, we had an opportunity to just remand it back to do some further investigation, not asking you not to cancel the public hearing, but just to delay to get some better investigation, and that didn't happen. And you know, I just feel that we missed a golden opportunity to absolutely get some more investigation on there. But with that being said, we will see you on April 22nd, and look forward to testifying. Thank you.
Thank you. Come on up, sir.
Good evening again, Jomare Polanco, 7 Weber Road, North Brunswick. Yes, I just want, before we go to sleep tonight, to maybe make some points that we can reflect better. I mean, everybody, including New Brunswick officials, commissioners that were talking here, and freeholders. Okay. I saw some, most of these projects I see as not accurate. This is one example. It was said here that East Brunswick was not notified because it's too far away. It's not going to be impacted. But the same way, Edison, it was notified, Edison. But come on, go to the area. Edison is like 20 miles further than East Brunswick. Doesn't make sense. That's number one. Not accurate when they say that all my people knew and were properly notified. It's not true. We are also taxpayers for Middlesex County. Let me tell you something. We heard this on the news a few days ago. So this was so fast, so quick, this project passed, that my people digested before yesterday. About 500 people came to my house. Everybody knows me there, to say we have to do something. We cannot let it go. It was said that today is only the day to approve the agenda, the resolution. It's nothing, it's just to approve it, and we go further. Why we have to go further? Let me ask you, police officers see a crime is going to happen. Police officer, we let it go until he get to the hospital. No police officer will stop it before the crime happens. That's what we expected today. Okay, I understand a lot of misunderstanding, and I understand more time, maybe for more discussion. Other people have to be heard. On the 22nd, you will hear again the same issues, because they are real. What I talk here, what I said before, it's not coming from my head. It's real issues. So you want to hear it again on the 22nd, 500 times? I mean, it doesn't make sense. Okay. Also, it was said that this is conforming zoning, industrial zoning. So I can build an atomic bomb industry there, because it's also conforming. No, come on, this is an excuse again. Okay. Another not accurate information here. Mr. T.K. Shami, who I admire, he's not here today. I don't want to blame him. I know him for a long time ago. But he said that Amtrak goes there, just by there. There is a lot of noise already there. So a few trucks is not having no more noise. I'm an engineer, come on. Go and measure the level of noise, and you will see how people get there. As more noise you put on the environment and the air, it's going to be worse for the health of the human being. So that's another excuse, not accurate again. Everything that I heard here from New Brunswick officials, I say I know them, it's nothing personal. But everything I heard here from them and from the commissioner of the people involved on the solids committee, as an engineer, I don't take it. And I can prove that. Now, finally, I want all of us, including New Brunswick officials, freeholders, commissioners, everyone, go home and think about our children playing on the park. 20 feet after the park, we have waste, environmental toxics. They go for recreation, exercising, for better health. They will not get that. Just reflect. I know the freeholder of Middlesex County. I'm living here for 22 years. I am proud of our county. I am proud of our party. Please do not act as Republican. Care about our people. Thank you.
My name is Glenn Sandor, resident of North Brunswick, 46 Lynn Court, and I just kind of want to echo some of the comments that were mentioned earlier, and we are all in this together. You are Middlesex County, you represent North Brunswick, its government and everything else. My understanding now is we have 20 days to prepare for a public hearing, right? I have very little resources. The county has many resources available to it. The county represents us. You know, so what can the county do to help us do a noise survey to find out? Can the county help us with that, to find out if there's going to be any impact on noise?
We wouldn't typically do that.
Okay, can the county give me information on the site contamination, the soil and water contamination on site, and what's going to be done with that? Can the county help me with that?
Yeah, certainly any information that we have on file concerning that particular site, you're entitled to.
Okay.
Okay. And
then let me just continue. I mean, the operation, there's testimony that there's a tipping area outside the facility, and it says that it's inside the facility. Obviously, that contradicts what the plan says, and I don't know, Rich, if that's true or not.
I can say this to you, that both Nikki and Rich will cooperate fully and provide you with, and answer your questions, and provide you with whatever information they have about the site.
And I appreciate that, because I don't have resources. You know, North Brunswick, we don't have an environmental engineer on site. I couldn't mount the amount of effort that those attorneys and Wick Plaza couldn't put together in 20 days. And I was wondering, could I have another public hearing? Could there be 2 public hearings, just so that we have enough time?
I'm not sure what it provides for.
That's not pursuant to statute. There's one public hearing allowed, but the ultimate decision by the Board of Chosen Freeholders, even though a public hearing is held within the statutory time frame, the Board of Chosen Freeholders can take additional time if they so choose to decide.
Okay.
And based upon that, I hope you understand that, I'm a public works director. I fix roads. I take care of our sewer department. I don't have any resources available to mount all the technical information, and I'm asking for the county to help us, because you represent us, and I think that is something that I may need more time. And I hope when the April 22nd hearing comes that you would at least say, hey, Glenn, you presented a strong argument, and if I came up and told you I don't have enough time, I hope you would say, hey, Glenn, you know what? Here's more time. We'll give you some more resources. We'll give all the county resources that we can to either say, yes, we agree with you, or no, we disagree with you, or at least find the facts. And that's really what we're looking for. But I don't have the resources. I don't think Highland Park has them. I don't think any town really has those type of resources, unless we hired Rutgers students or something like that, and I just don't have the time. So I hope you give us that consideration. It's 20 days. Today is April 2nd. We're looking at preparing this for the 22nd. It's a lot of work for us. And I also grant that we missed the boat on our participation, and I take blame for that. I don't go to SWAC teams, and the information wasn't given to me. And you know what? You could shoot me for that, but I'm a government. I'm representing employees, and I'm trying to do my best. You have to give us the opportunity to present an argument and still say, hey, you know what? All right, you may have missed a technicality. You didn't go to the SWAC team, but we are going to give you ample time to at least review the facts. Okay. And that's where I'm coming from, and I hope you understand our position. And I think every town that in Middlesex County is just saying, hey, hear us, listen to us, and give us consideration. And I hope you do that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Richard Stewart, 90 Nielsen Street, New Brunswick. Coming back for a moment to the poll situation, in the 31 years I've been in New Brunswick, some of that time as a municipal chairman and otherwise as a poll worker, I've worked almost every poll in the city. And really what sounds excellent to me, but you'd have to really get the state to change it to make that a non-school day, because that would solve that problem. On the other hand, I think that the matter of the buildings, somewhere in the back of my mind, I'm thinking that when they are in the schools, they don't pay any rent. If they go into some non-school facilities, they may be paying rent. So maybe there's a financial consideration with the board that has to be addressed one way or another. The other thing that is of particular concern to me, I spoke at the City Council, New Brunswick City Council meeting last night. We have well, it's an unfortunate situation. The building that I live in is a senior building, senior citizen building owned by the UAW Housing Corporation. Over 210 apartments. These are, one exception is a family deal, that's the superintendent, but otherwise it's either single or couples in the apartments. But we had been going along. I've been there 8 years. The building has been there about 30 years. We were having no particular problems with the parking. The city recently went to court against us and tried to take part of our parking lot. We didn't have enough and still don't have enough. But now the city has stepped in and the public safety, fire safety people have decided that we can't park along the sides of the parking lot. They're saying that fire apparatus couldn't get in. Now this has not been a problem for the 30 years that the building has been there. All of a sudden it has become a problem. And there are people with the UAW that feel that this ruling is motivated by the fact that the city lost in court in their efforts to take half of our parking lot. But regardless of their motives, they have created an almost impossible situation for us because we don't have enough for the residents to park, and they have cut down 5 visitor spaces is all they have in the parking lot. Now, 5 visitor spaces does not begin to deal with the nurses that have to come there, the CNAs, the housekeeping aides. I recently was in the hospital. When I came out, I had the visiting nurse changing dressings every day on my leg. The one day she came and they wouldn't let her park in the parking lot because of, well, that was one of their series, the management's series of submoronic decisions regarding the parking. But she ended up getting a ticket, $35 ticket, because she had to park out on the street. There is no public parking around there. The closest parking, unless you're going to sit around and wait for somebody to leave, the street parking is all taken. The lot across the street behind 303 and 317 is only for the people in the building. The nearest paid is the Morris lot up on the other side of George Street.
Time.
So this is something that they are not, and the city is not being in any way cooperative.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart.
It's sad.
Sir? Thanks.
I'm Doug Robertson, again, for Township in North Brunswick. I live at 75 Merrill Avenue, East Brunswick, though. Again, just to, well, I want to clear the record anyway. I've had a long and successful relationship with Mr. Hills. I've been in the business of public works for 35 years. I was a designated member of the SWAT committee since the incinerator war years. That's what I term it. It's some very turbulent times. So we have a long association. Mr. Hills has always been a primary help source to me and to my department and to North Brunswick when we had solid waste issues. That being said, and since I am the SWAC designated mayor's appointed designator's representative on the SWAC committee, I just want to make sure that it's clear in your mind without keeping you awake for too much more, because you guys got to go home too, that this site was a little bit deceptive. And I had viewed it before, but not with the SWAC subcommittee. And being next to the railroad can be a little misleading because you're not really conscious of what's on the other side of that because of the configuration of the trees and berms and et cetera. And when I got to review these plan sheets, which in my experience, and I'm only speaking for me, maybe that there's some other issues that this is not true for, but these things are very important for me to understand a complete site layout if I'm really going to do it the correct way. Now, I had the opportunity to join that committee, but for personal reasons and scheduling reasons, I had to schedule a vacation for that time. I am the SWAC representative, the coordinator for recycling. I'm also the stormwater coordinator. I'm also the assistant deputy director of emergency management. I have a full plate. That in vacation is very important to me. I'm not here to defend myself. I chose not to participate in that committee. I have to bear that responsibility. But that being said, I just don't want to have the people of North Brunswick pay the price for that personal decision. And it seems to me that the SWAC opinion of that committee was mentioned several times by the applicant, and it carries weight. And there's things in this plan sheet that I'm certain the SWAC committee is unaware of. And I was a little disappointed, but I'm hoping that there will be a chance to at least get some of this information out at the hearing date, because I'm not sure that this body fully understands what I tried to represent verbally. I'm not a good speech maker. Okay, I appreciate your time and your attention, and I know you have the public interest at heart, so that the ultimate right thing will be done. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? I need a motion to close.
Second.
Motion by Freeholder Rios, seconded by Freeholder Valente. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Now, before I call the meeting adjourned, we have to mention the fact that it's Freeholder Rios' birthday today. So let's hear it for Freeholder Rios.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
To you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Rehos. Happy birthday to you.
I need a motion to adjourn.
You got it.
Any second? Motion by Rios, and seconded by Barrett. Non-debatable, meeting adjourned at 9:37.